air was thick with whispers and suspicion following the mysterious death of Pope Formosus. The Eternal City, already a cauldron of political intrigue and religious fervor, found itself plunged into chaos. Formosus's sudden demise left a power vacuum, and the streets buzzed with rumors of foul play as the people of Rome grappled with uncertainty and fear. It was a time of heightened tension, where alliances were fragile and every shadow seemed to conceal a plot. The legacy of Pope Formosus. Formosus's rise to the papacy had been anything but smooth. Born in the early 9th century in the Papal States, he quickly gained a reputation as a skilled diplomat and an astute administrator. His tenure as the Bishop of Porto brought him into the limelight, where his ability to navigate the treacherous waters of European politics set him apart. However, his ascent also attracted enemies. In a church where power was often contested, Formosus's influence and alliances raised suspicions among rival factions. His papacy, beginning in 891, was marked by significant challenges. Among them were disputes over the legitimacy of various rulers, particularly in the Carolingian and Byzantine spheres, and efforts to consolidate the church's authority amidst encroaching secular powers. Formosus often found himself walking a tightrope, balancing the ambitions of powerful nobles and kings while striving to uphold the sanctity of the papal office. Yet, his legacy was marred by controversy. Accusations of political scheming and questions about his decisions to crown certain rulers lingered long after his death. These disputes were not merely theological or ecclesiastical. They were deeply entwined with the volatile politics of the era, where kings and emperors vied for the church's endorsement to legitimize their rule. The rise of Pope Stephen VI. Amid this backdrop of intrigue and power struggles, Pope Stephen VI emerged. His ascent to the papacy in 896 followed a tumultuous period in which Rome saw a rapid succession of popes. Stephen was a man of ambition, his eyes set firmly on consolidating his power. Yet his tenure would be defined not by diplomacy or reform, but by an act so shocking that it would reverberate through the centuries: the trial of Pope Formosus's corpse. Stephen's animosity toward Formosus had deep roots. Historians speculate that it stemmed from political rivalries, conflicting loyalties, and personal grievances. To Stephen, Formosus represented everything that was wrong with the church's recent past: a usurper who had undermined the sanctity of the papacy. This resentment festered until it erupted into one of the most macabre episodes in the history of the Church. Preparations for the Cadaver Synod. The decision to put Formosus on trial was unprecedented. In an act that stunned even the most cynical observers of Roman politics, Stephen ordered Formosus's body exhumed from its tomb. The preparations for this grotesque spectacle were as elaborate as they were horrifying. The decayed corpse was clothed in papal vestments, its skeletal remains draped in the regalia of an office it could no longer defend. The trial was set to take place in the Basilica of St. John Lateran, one of Rome's most revered sites. Ordinarily a place of worship and solemn ceremonies, it was transformed into a grotesque courtroom. The clergy and nobility of Rome gathered, their faces betraying a mix of horror, curiosity, and revulsion. The stench of decay permeated the air, poorly masked by clouds of incense wafting from censers. The bizarre trial unfolds. As the trial commenced, Stephen VI presided with a fervor that bordered on mania. Standing before the assembled crowd, he leveled a series of charges against the lifeless Formosus: perjury, violating church canon, and unlawfully ascending to the papacy. The sight of a pope denouncing his predecessor's corpse was surreal, a theater of the absurd that underscored the depths of Stephen's vendetta. A deacon was appointed to speak on behalf of the deceased. His trembling voice echoed through the basilica as he read out Formosus's supposed responses. The absurdity of the situation was matched only by the grotesque symbolism of the trial. This was not merely a judgment of Formosus's actions, it was a calculated move to erase his legacy and discredit his followers. Stephen's accusations were delivered with venomous zeal. He gestured dramatically, his voice rising and falling as he sought to paint Formosus as a heretic and a traitor. The gathered clergy, many of whom had supported Formosus during his lifetime, sat in stunned silence. Some dared to exchange furtive glances, but most remained still, their expressions betraying a mixture of fear and disbelief. The verdict and aftermath. Unsurprisingly, Formosus was found guilty on all counts. In a final act of desecration, Stephen ordered the corpse stripped of its vestments, its 3 fingers, once used for blessings, severed. The mutilated remains were then cast into the Tiber River, a symbolic gesture intended to erase Formosus's memory and sanctity. But Stephen's actions would have far-reaching consequences. News of the Cadaver Synod spread rapidly, its scandalous details shocking Europe. Even in an era accustomed to brutality, the trial of a dead pope was unprecedented. The spectacle undermined the Church's credibility and fueled growing discontent among both the clergy and the laity. Within a year, Stephen VI faced the consequences of his actions. His enemies, emboldened by the outrage surrounding the Cadaver Synod, orchestrated his downfall. Imprisoned and abandoned by his allies, Stephen met a violent end, strangled in his cell. A stain on the Church's legacy. The Cadaver Synod remains a dark chapter in the history of the Church. It serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the corrosive effects of vengeance. For centuries, it has been recounted as a cautionary tale, highlighting the fragility of human institutions and the perils of placing personal grievances above the greater good. Lessons from the past. The story of Formosus and the Cadaver Synod is more than a tale of betrayal and desecration. It offers valuable lessons about the importance of integrity, humility, and the need for checks and balances in leadership. It challenges us to confront the darker aspects of human nature and strive for a future where justice and compassion prevail over ambition and vengeance.